Ladies and gentlemen, I take pride in introducing the greatest show on earth.
Hi, everybody. I'm Scott Gordon, and welcome to the Uncle Floyd podcast number 63. It's Thursday, March 5th, 2026, and I'm sitting in my studio getting ready to do this for you guys. We got some lovely questions from people all about the Uncle Floyd Show, some backstage information about the Uncle Floyd Show, some technical questions, some theatrical questions, and a bunch of other stuff. And we'll get to that in a few minutes as soon as this music is finished. If you have questions, send them to ufpodcast@sge-inc.com. That's ufpodcast@sge-inc.com. And we'll try and get on here next week. Be back in just a few seconds. All right, now, one of the first thing we have here is a note from George Nist. It's a note of thanks and a note of condolences, and I thank you, George, for sending that. It's not a question, so I'm just going to acknowledge it. And thank you, George. I really appreciate your thoughts. First question. Now, this is going to seem a little backwards for you because it's going to talk about the end of the podcast, and it'll make more sense when we get to the end of the podcast. This is from Dominic Nunziato. He says, I love the music for Scott Gordon Enterprises at the end of each podcast. What's the name of that and where is it from? Well, Dom, that's from the Soper Sound Music Library. It's licensed production music, and it's called Station Break. I own a pretty large library of production music that I use for video editing and music editing and other such stuff. That's it. That's what I got. And this is from Phil Pagliaro. As a musician, did Floyd ever play any rock music, whether that was in a band or as a solo artist? I was amazed that while growing up, he gravitated towards music of an earlier era, honky-tonk, ragtime, Dixieland, etc., when during his teenage years he was surrounded by popular rock music, especially that of the British invasion, including the Beatles, Stones, The Who, and many other popular groups of the 60s. I believe he would have been about 13 when the Beatles appeared on The Ed Sullivan Show, and you were probably in your early teens at that time as well. How was it that he went in such a different direction musically, while I bet his friends and fellow developing musicians were being influenced by the popular music of the day? What were your musical influences growing up, and how did the British invasion and popular rock music, now classic rock, affect your musical development? Every one of us has a different psyche within ourselves, a different rhythm of our own being. And I think Floyd just clicked with the music of the 20s and 30s and 40s. The way Floyd used to put it was that he was a time traveler. He was actually designed to be born in another time. And because of the other time, he liked the music of that time. I have friends who are deeply involved in things medieval. And they were probably time travelers too, if that's true. And my musical influences? Well, my parents always listened to WNEW AM. So I'm very into big band and jazz and the novelty music of that time. I hung around with Les Paul. I got to know Les Paul. I got to meet a lot of his friends who were well-known jazz musicians at the time. It was not unusual to be over Les Paul's house on a Saturday when you turned around and walking in the door was Louis Armstrong. For real. I had that happen. And Bing Crosby, and Tony Bennett, Don Cornell, Lou Monte, George Barnes, another great guitarist. So, that's my influences. I hung around with those guys and watched them play and actually did a little bit of playing along with them. And sometimes they laughed at me for being a little cloddy, but what can I say? This is from Kevin Dillon. He said, "Hi, Scott. You played an audio clip from a March 1983 show at the Brooklyn Zoo. I was at that show. Do you have any particular memories of the Brooklyn Zoo? And was that the only time the Uncle Floyd show played at the Brooklyn Zoo?" No, I think we played 2 or 3 times at the zoo. And I've done so many live shows in so many different places. I do not have any specific memories of the Brooklyn Zoo, other than it was another show. I've listened to that full show, which I do have on tape. And it's familiar. It's just very familiar. This is from Susie Tannenbaum. She asked a very interesting question in regards to generic show business. What's the difference between a manager and an agent? Did Floyd have one or both? We did have several different agents, and maybe Floyd had 1 or 2 managers, but mostly agents. I don't think there was any more than 1 or 2 managers. And the primary difference is that agents focus on securing immediate work, while managers look on the long-term career strategy. Agents are primarily transactional, dealing with the casting directors and contracts, where managers act as career architects who provide personal guidance or branding and professional development. That's basically it. I've written this down. I sat down and I thought about it. I wrote it down so I wouldn't be sitting here thinking while I'm doing this. But basically, let's get into what a talent agent does. This is what an agent does. An agent's primary responsibility is to get you auditions and book acting jobs. Agents have direct connections with casting directors, producers, and studios, and they submit their clients for roles in films, television, commercials, theaters, and voiceover work, like cartoon voices. Agents typically earn 10% of the earnings from jobs that they have booked for you. They only get paid when you do, which means they are motivated to submit you for the best opportunities possible. Now, that's an agent. Now, a manager, a talent manager takes a broader, more strategic view of your acting career. Managers focus on career development, branding, networking, and positioning you in the entertainment industry. They help you make decisions about training, image, and which projects you want to pursue. Managers usually take 10% of your total earnings. While they don't primarily submit you for auditions, they can advocate for you with your agent and help create opportunities through networking and relationship building. See, this is an interesting thing. When you look at what an entertainer earns, they're not earning all that money. They have different people they have to pay. They have to pay their talent agents. They have to pay their talent managers if they have one. They have to pay the people who do the publicity for them. You get just a little bit of your money. You get the lion's share, I'm sure, but, that's it. This is from Matt DiLorenzo in New York City. We know that Floyd loved all things old-timey, and even more so, he seemed proudly allergic to modern technology. This was more than an exaggerated bit, it seemed. Did his dislike of tech ever create hilarious problems behind the scenes, like resisting new equipment or refusing to learn something modern? Absolutely. I've told the garage door story before here, so I won't repeat that. But when Channel 68 moved from West Orange to Newark, it was a big building. It was a modern building. They really did work inside it. And they had everything. They had beautifully large men's rooms and ladies' rooms and stuff like that. And they kind of got ticked off at us because we'd leave at night when we were there and we wouldn't shut off the lights in the men's room and the ladies' room. So they just invented them around this time, the small replacement for the switches on the wall that were sound activated. So in other words, until someone touched the door and it heard the door being touched, the lights didn't go on. So when you walked in the room, the lights were on, you're in there, you do what you're going to do, you running water, everything else, you leave, it gets quiet, and the lights shut off. It saves electricity. So Floyd had this thing we used to call the Vino Purge. He would go into the bathroom before every taping session and totally relieve himself without getting too graphic. So he's in there when they change these lights, and he's in the stall with the door closed, and he's sitting there. Maybe he's reading something. I don't know whether he took anything in to read, or he's sitting there thinking. And the lights go off because he's in there for a while. He'd come out of the bathroom and he'd seem annoyed. We couldn't figure out why, so when he went in one week, I stood outside the bathroom and listened to see what, if there was any problem when he came in the bathroom. All of a sudden, I hear from in the bathroom, "Hey!" And then quiet. And he's sitting in the bathroom for a little while longer, and I hear, "Who's doing that?" And I'm wondering what's going on. This goes on for a little while, 2 more times. He comes out, he's all grumpy. So I go into the bathroom, and I just stand in there, and the light goes off. I knew what it was. I knew what the sound switch was about. So I went and I told everybody else in the cast, I said, "Look, this is what's going on. This is why he comes in here grumpy. Because of the fact that there's a sound switch in the men's room, and the light goes off when he's taking his time in there before we tape the show, while his technicians are setting everything up." So the next week, we're standing outside the bathroom. The entire cast is standing outside the bathroom, and we hear, "Hey!" A little quiet, a little longer, and, "Who's doing that?" And then a little more silence, and then, "Charlie, if that's you, you're off the show." And it goes on a little bit longer, and he comes out, and we're all standing there, and we're all giggling. And he's going, "What's wrong with you guys?" We said, "Floyd, look, let's go in the bathroom." We went in the bathroom. I said, "Now let's just, everybody be quiet. Don't say anything." And we didn't say anything, and the lights went off. And as soon as somebody made a noise, the lights came on again. And I explained to Floyd what the switch was on the wall. And he said, "That's the dumbest thing I ever saw in my life." And he went out, and he was still so angry he couldn't do Oogie's voice for the first show. All right, now, Matt also says, from production recording, what are some technological advances that you remember very well? Such as, I'm wondering if you had tubes and fuses you had to deal with that gave way to other improvements. Yeah, I did. Just remember, I've been doing this kind of thing since about 1963, when I started hanging around Les Paul's house. Everything was tubes at the time. There was very little transistor anything in professional equipment. Guitar amps, there were some that were, shall we say, solid state, is what they called it at the time. That was transistors and stuff. They all had their purpose. As a matter of fact, the guitar amps that I use, most of them are tube amps. I have one solid state amp, which I use when I have to carry it around myself and I don't have the ability to use a dolly or anything. And I have one that's a solid state preamp with tube amplifiers. And the rest of them are tubes. I have about 10 guitar amplifiers. My studio is all solid state except for the preamps for the microphones. They are tubes to give them the tube sound. There's a certain warmth to tubes that the solid state stuff doesn't have. Now, from Tim Ramsdell, do you have all the episodes of the show on tape? And if not, is there a show or moment you remember that you wish you had? Tim, let me tell you something. I was on the Uncle Floyd show starting in 1976. The commercial home VHS machines didn't come out until 1979. I have that entire 3-year period that I do not have anything from the show. Well, I have 1 or 2 segments that have been translated from the professional to digital later in years, but there are not that many. And unfortunately, if you've seen on Facebook the picture of all the big reels of quad tape, the 2-inch reel-to-reel tape that the show was done on originally, the ones that were starting to get worn out were discarded. Muggsy found them and got them to Floyd. Floyd had them in his warehouse, and there was a warehouse flood, and they were all submerged in water. That stuff just doesn't exist anymore, and I wish I had some of it. A great question. John Jacklich, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Jacklich, spelled Jacklitzsch, asked, who operated Yugo? And that was Muggsy. Muggsy had the whole thing. Continuing with Muggsy, Jim Shagowat asks, any chance you have the full lyrics to Muggsy's 1998 Bruce parody Seaside Heights from the clip you showed on the last Stage It show? That was 2 weeks ago from this recording. Jim, no, I don't have the lyrics. In fact, Muggsy changed the lyrics almost every time he did it. He rewrote it a little bit. So there's no real set lyrics. I don't know what else to say other than, I don't know of any recording of that's available. That's the only version of it I have. I may have a New Jersey Network version, an earlier version. That's all I can say about that. All right. That's going to be it for this week. Been great being here talking to you. And please send more questions. I love these questions. Some of them are great. Some of them on the technology and the theatrical ones are a little bit more generic for more people who listen to this who might not know who the Uncle Floyd Show was and are just listening out of curiosity. Please send in questions, send in anything about stage work, anything about acting. I am a trained actor. I was trained in Shakespearean acting. So send me those questions. I love to answer that stuff. I love to get those things going for you. To do that, just send them to ufpodcast@sge-inc.com. That's ufpodcast@sge-inc.com. That's also listed in the description of this show, wherever you're listening to it. And if you want to see any of the Uncle Floyd Show stuff, I know most of you do come. Every Tuesday night at 8, we have a date for a live stream. This was the Uncle Floyd Show, hosted live by me. And I'm glad to sit down and do this and show you some old stuff. And I never know exactly what I'm going to pull out. I don't know what I have planned for next Tuesday night because I haven't put it together yet. And I'll be doing that tomorrow. Have a great time. And if you want to come to the Uncle Floyd Show live stream, this was the Uncle Floyd Show, just type in to your browser, theunclefloydshow.tv. That's The Uncle Floyd Show, as one word, .tv, and you're right there. You'll see where to come in, and that's on the Stage It platform, who have been very kind to us. And now, to do the reverse of what I said at the beginning, we talked about my little credit at the end of the show. We're going to play a song by Floyd. Now, if you haven't seen the movie, Crazy People, it's streaming. You can get it on any of the streaming services. Crazy People with Dudley Moore. Floyd is in it. Floyd has a good character part in there, and a lot of other people. And the end credit theme is Floyd on the piano playing this song with one of the other actors from the show. I won't tell you who, so you can go and watch it if you'd like to see it. And this is the song that he plays, and it kind of makes this podcast a little upside down. So we'll go out with Floyd.
Hello, hello, what a wonderful word, hello. hello, hello, hello. Why, you can hear it wherever you go. A stranger in a strange place can't be nearer, but when you sing this little song, it's dearer. Hello, hello, hello. What a wonderful word, hello. Why, a stranger in a strange place can't be nearer, but when you sing this little song, it's dearer. Hello, hello, hello. What a wonderful word, hello.
This program was produced in the studios of Scott Gordon Enterprises, Incorporated in Paramus, New Jersey.